Good morning, you're watching A News. I'm Leila Masimwa. Here are the top stories. Specialists recover flight recorders from the crashed American Airlines plane as Trump slams diversity hiring policies for the crash. Donald Trump hints at a decision to impose a 25% tariff on oil imports from Mexico and Canada by the end of the day. Situation remains tense in the Democratic Republic of Congo as rebel leader vows to hold Goma and push forward towards Kinshasa. No survivors after an American Airlines flight collided with a Black Hawk helicopter over Washington, D.C.'s Potomac River. Both flight recorders have already been recovered as specialists continue investigation. The plane coming from Wichita had 60 passengers and 4 crew members on board, while the military helicopter carried 3 soldiers.
Surveillance footage shows the moment the American Airlines regional passenger jet collided mid-air with the U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter near the Reagan-Washington National Airport on Wednesday night. In the footage, 2 sets of aircraft lights can be seen behind the Lincoln Memorial, with one moving toward the other until they cross paths and an explosion is seen mid-air. Eyewitness Abadi Ismail, a resident near the crash site, described the scene as horrific and unbelievable.
Everything happened somewhere around 8:50 p.m. local time, Eastern time. I was getting ready to go to bed, laying down when I heard the bang bang, a very unusual sound, something you don't hear on a daily basis. It's more like on a war zone, something you hear on movies, action. So that caught my attention. I looked up the sky, I looked up the window, and all I could see at that moment was just smokes from the south side of Reagan Airport.
According to sources from American Airlines, 60 passengers, 2 pilots, and 2 crew members were on the plane. Additionally, 3 soldiers were aboard the Black Hawk helicopter. White House National Security Advisor confirmed that bodies have been recovered from the scene. Officials said there are no survivors expected, with the Potomac River's temperature at 2.2 degrees Celsius on Wednesday, significantly reducing chances of survival. The collision has prompted widespread concern as officials work to identify the victims. U.S. figure skating confirmed that several skaters and their families were returning from the U.S. Championships in Kansas. Among the victims were ice skating coaches and former world champions Yevgenia Shishkova and Vadim Naumov. Kremlin confirms former champion Russian skaters were on board the plane.
We have already checked through all available channels. There were 14 skaters and coaches on board. It is fortunate that Vadik and Zhenya's son, Maxim, was not on board. He has just participated in this competition, performed well, I think, even qualified for the World Championship.
Flight data from FlightRadar24.com shows the jet signal was lost over the Potomac River. Air traffic control audio revealed that the Black Hawk helicopter crew was aware of the nearby passenger plane as it was approaching the airport for landing. Less than 30 seconds before the collision, air traffic recordings show controllers asking the helicopter if it has the plane in sight and instructing it to pass behind the landing aircraft.
It's quite possible that this...
Aviation expert Jeffrey Thomas highlighted the importance of the Black Hawk's tracking system, which was reportedly turned off at the time of the collision. Thomas stressed that the lack of an automatic dependent surveillance broadcast system could have contributed to the crash.
What that tells me is that this was a training flight of the helicopter. It apparently did not have its ADS-B tracking system turned on. This is the signal that's sent out to air traffic control to track aircraft. And it also is a vital component of another system called TCAS, which is Traffic Collision Avoidance System, fitted to all commercial aircraft and military aircraft, which alerts them to other aircraft on a collision course, but the ADS-B must be turned on.
American Airlines CEO Robert Isom expressed his deep sorrow and confirmed that the airline is cooperating with the NTSB investigation.
We're cooperating fully with the National Transportation Safety Board in its investigation and will continue to provide all the information we can. Our cooperation is without pause, and we want to learn everything we can about today's events.
We canceled $181
In response to the tragic incident, US President Donald Trump offered his condolences and commended the efforts of first responders. He also pledged to monitor the situation closely. Later, Trump issued a second statement describing the crash as a bad situation that looks like it should have been prevented. Following the crash, the airport halted all flights as emergency services responded. Both flight recorders have already been recovered as specialists continue investigation.
In a recent press briefing, President Trump discusses a potential impact of diversity policies on aviation safety following a fatal crash.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
US President Donald Trump questioned whether diversity and inclusion initiatives at the Federal Aviation Administration played a role in a deadly crash. Trump criticized the emphasis on hiring for diversity, reading from a statement that highlighted disabilities targeted in recruitment for air traffic controllers. He blamed the policies for lowering standards, arguing that the focus should be on competency and psychological qualifications, not diversity. Trump also took aim at Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, calling him a disaster and accusing him of mismanaging the department. He suggested that the focus on diversity hiring had compromised the safety of air travel. In response to a question on the investigation, Trump said while the cause was still unclear, diversity policies could have contributed to the crash. Trump's comments came amid a broader discussion on the standards and leadership within the FAA, and they sparked a response from Buttigieg, who defended his record in improving air travel safety.
President Trump stated that he would likely decide by the end of the day whether to impose a 25% tariff on oil imports from Mexico and Canada, effective February 1. Trump has warned both countries that the tariff could be enacted unless they address fentanyl shipments and migrant flows across U.S. borders. Canadian and Mexican officials have not yet responded to the request for comment. Hamas has released 8 hostages, 3 Israelis and 5 Syrian nationals, in the latest exchange with Israel as part of the ceasefire deal. Israel, in turn, released 110 Palestinian prisoners after an initial delay. The claim was caused by chaotic scenes at one of the handover points in Gaza.
Israeli hostage Agam Berger was released in Gaza on Thursday as a part of a ceasefire deal. The handover took place in Jabalia, where Berger was transferred to the International Committee of the Red Cross. Crowds of Palestinians watched the release. Along with Berger, 2 other Israeli hostages, Gadi Moses and Arbel Yahud, were also freed. More than 250 people were taken hostage during the October 7th. Some have been released in the past exchanges, but Israel still has 90 hostages in Gaza. The conflict has caused major loss of life and destruction in Gaza. Qatar, Egypt, and the United States have played a key role in mediating between Israel and Hamas, facilitating to reach a ceasefire and the release of hostages. A video released by the Islamic Jihadi group showed 2 of the freed hostages, Arbel Yahud and Gadi Moses, sharing an emotional hug and smile before their release on Thursday. An Israeli official said the 3 hostages would likely be taken to hospitals in Israel for checks, though that could change depending on their health. A crowd gathered in Tel Aviv to celebrate the release of the hostages, cheering when they heard the news of the release in northern Gaza.
Although the ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas has temporarily halted the war in Gaza, the humanitarian crisis in the region has deepened. Palestinians returning to their homes amid the destruction are facing harsh living conditions, a lack of shelter and sanitation issues.
As Palestinians return to their homes, those returning step into the unknown, walking towards the ruins, unaware of what awaits them. Residents returning to the Tel Al-Hawa neighborhood in the southern part of Gaza City have found their homes in ruins. The area, devastated by Israeli attacks, is now in an uninhabitable condition for many. Displaced Palestinians have been forced to set up temporary tents near their destroyed homes. However, their struggles extend beyond finding shelter. In addition to the lack of adequate housing, there is a serious concern over the lack of clean drinking water and electricity. The destruction of the wastewater drainage system due to conflict has worsened sanitation and hygiene issues. Despite these hardships, Palestinians are deeply grateful to return to their homeland. However, the fate of 11,000 people is still unknown. The widespread destruction and humanitarian crisis have had particularly devastating effects on the elderly and children. The United Nations and international organizations have warned that the situation is critical. But delivering significant humanitarian aid to the region remains a challenge. Palestinians are looking to the international community for increased humanitarian aid and long-term solutions to the crisis that will finally bring sustainable peace.
The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees is still operating in Gaza, the West Bank and East Jerusalem despite Israel's ban on the agency. UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric confirms that UNRWA continues to provide assistance and services to the communities it serves, with clinics in the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, remaining open. Humanitarian operations in Gaza are also ongoing, with the agency reaffirming its commitment to staying and delivering aid. Dujarric spoke to reporters at a briefing at UN headquarters, highlighting UNRWA's continued efforts in challenging conditions.
UNRWA told us today, and we've been speaking to them by phone a number of times this morning, that they are continuing to deliver assistance and services to the communities they're serving. UNRWA clinics across the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, are open. Meanwhile, the humanitarian operations in Gaza continues, including with UNRWA work there. UNRWA says it is committed to staying and delivering.
Tensions continue to rise in the Democratic Republic of Congo as Corneille Nangaa, leader of the Congo River Alliance rebel coalition, vows to maintain control of Goma and push forward towards the capital, Kinshasa. The situation in the region remains volatile, with widespread displacement and growing international concern over escalating violence and foreign involvement.
The leader of the Congo River Alliance rebel coalition, Corneille Nangaa, has vowed to hold Goma and push forward towards Kinshasa. At a press conference, he accused the government of militarizing the region and defended his forces' control of the city. Speaking in Goma days after its capture, Nangaa claimed the rebels were establishing secure humanitarian corridors to allow displaced civilians to return. He insisted that key roads, including those to Rutshuru and Sake, were now under rebel control and critical for supplying essential goods. However, the situation in Goma remains tense. Streets are largely deserted, with debris and abandoned military fatigue scattered across the city. M23 fighters, heavily armed and patrolling in pickup trucks, maintain their presence as uncertainty lingers over the city's future. Nangar sharply criticized President Felix Tshisekedi's government, accusing it of reckless militarization and arming untrained civilians. He claimed that foreign forces had been invited into the conflict, escalating tensions in the already volatile eastern region. The rebel advance has triggered a humanitarian crisis, forcing thousands to flee into Rwanda. As M23 fighters push south towards Bukavu, international pressure is mounting on Rwanda over its alleged support for the rebels. Meanwhile, protests in Kinshasa against Rwanda's involvement have led to attacks on foreign embassies.
The UK government has issued guidance to help UK exporters identify and counter attempts by third parties to evade or circumvent trade sanctions on Russia. Among the countries of concern is Armenia, as follows reports of Armenia's growing trade volume with Russia, particularly in the gold sector, which has raised suspicions of circumvention.
The UK government has included Armenia in its list of countries of concern for exporters, warning UK businesses to be cautious when trading with the country. This guidance is part of efforts to prevent goods from being misappropriated or re-exported to Russia, which continues to bypass Western sanctions through third countries. Russia remains Armenia's top trading partner, according to data from Armenia's Statistical Committee, indicating that Russia's exports to the country surged by $5.6 billion to nearly $8.3 billion during the first 10 months of 2024. Additionally, Armenia has seen a major rise in gold imports from Russia, according to data from Armenia's Customs Service. This has raised concerns that Yerevan may be acting as a key route for Russian gold and diamonds, further complicating its position on the global stage as a third-party country. Armenia's trade turnover with the UAE has also grown dramatically, prompting further scrutiny regarding its involvement in facilitating Russian sanctions evasion, particularly through gold exports.
A poll done by Gallup in Armenia shows that most citizens believe the country is heading in the wrong direction. Economic struggles and security concerns are among top issues, while EU accession remains a divisive topic.
A recent survey by Gallup International Association reveals that 58.5% of Armenians believe the country is on the wrong track, while only 24.2% think it's heading in the right direction. Security concerns top the list of issues, with 39.5% citing them as the most urgent problem. Border demarcation was mentioned by 21% of respondents, while 15.6% highlighted the threat of war. In addition to security and political concerns, poverty remains a significant challenge. Previous data shows that over 25% of the Armenian population lives below the poverty line, especially in rural areas where access to jobs, healthcare, and essential services is limited. Inflation and rising living costs have further worsened economic conditions, leading to widespread dissatisfaction with the government's economic policies. As a result, 14% of respondents identified economic challenges as the main problem. The survey, conducted between January 20th and 22nd, also found that 55% of Armenians support the country's EU accession, though opinions are divided, with 12% somewhat opposed and 19.3% completely against it. In the same time, 51% of respondents believe Armenia will join the EU within the next 10 years, though 40% disagree. Regarding national security, 27% of Armenians believe that the country's EU aspirations and its strategic partnership with the US will enhance security, while 24.2% fear these steps could create new risks. With growing concerns over security, economic instability, and poverty, the survey underscores a mounting sentiment that Armenia is struggling to navigate its challenges, leaving many uncertain about the country's future direction.
In space news, asteroid Bennu samples were found to contain organic compounds, including amino acids and nuclear bases. Scientists say these findings are proof that asteroids may have helped seed early life on Earth.
Take a peek.
NASA's analysis of asteroid Bennu samples has found key organic compounds, such as amino acids and nucleobases, essential for life. Collected by OSIRIS-REx in 2020 and delivered to Earth in 2023, these samples suggest that asteroids may have significantly contributed to the emergence of life on early Earth. Two studies in Nature Astronomy and Nature revealed that the samples contain organic compounds and minerals from evaporated brine, suggesting conditions for prebiotic chemistry. Unlike meteorites, which can be contaminated after landing, these samples offer an untainted record of the solar system's early chemistry. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson states that their main goal is to assist scientists in studying planets for years to come.
And why are we doing this? Because at NASA, we are trying to find out who we are, what we are, where we came from. And this mission will help our scientists investigate planet formation for generations to come. And it's going to deepen our understanding of our solar system.
Scientists assume Bennu formed from a large icy celestial body. Believed to be destroyed 1 to 2 billion years ago, the remnants became Bennu and other rubble pile asteroids, preserving ancient materials that could reveal clues about the origins of life.
We're done for now, but don't go far. Stay tuned for more and have a wonderful morning.